Rosewood extraction has been ongoing in the landscape since, if my memory serves me right, 2011, 2012. We saw it more clearly when the Fufusu-Sola Road was awarded in contract to the Chinese construction companies. In fact, a little look at the history sends us back to even Bui, when the salvage permits were given to salvage some trees that would be affected by the development project. So it was then that we saw that these logs were palatable on the Chinese market or the Asian market. So the entry point was the fact that they had legal permits to salvage rosewood. And then gradually, they go into a community through a lead person, and then they speak to the chief, who, as at that time, didn't know the value of rosewood, and seeing the permits that were being showed, couldn't ascertain that this is supposed to be done in this particular area or that area. So yeah, we're giving the lead. So they got clear leads into the community.
Before the rosewood not banned, we normally do the rosewood. You know, in Ghana here, plenty of the Chinese, where Chinese come here, want cutting the rosewood for selling to China, for the furniture, some of the house floor.
Initially, the Chinese were involved in all the levels of the trade because it was new. Because in the north, there has been no single mass, let me say, felling like this before. So this is not like the southern markets where you have locals who know the trade. So the Chinese came in when it comes to financing, when it comes to transport, when it comes to even the actual felling. And I might state that the Chinese did a clever job by not only fronting the rosewood business, but gradually pulling the locals into the business.
The Chinese, they themselves doesn't come, but the bush buyers, they connect with them. They come in to buy from the fellers, then it's carried away.
They are the buyers. They even convincing the communities to do that work.
They train them. In fact, you hardly go and find any Chinese holding a chainsaw. But they were the ones that trained them on how to cut them.
Because the work, the felling of the trees were making money for people, the younger ones saw that they should also become millionaires. So in fact, from that moment, they started changing their minds to do the felling. And in fact, we became enemies to them. Whatever we tell them again, they doesn't listen to us.
Getting to 2015, everybody go inside. That if they follow us, they don't get money.
So they went out of the landscape, but they were financing the trade from afar because they had built enough capacity for the locals to undertake the trade. The local level mainly involved identifying the logs and bringing them down. They mainly use chainsaws and then transport them to the roadside using tractors or motor tricycles. And then they put it on the tracks. Then the trucks leave the community after they've paid the chief and the community guys who help them to load.
So the operator takes between 800 and 1,000 cedis for logging a whole container. The crane also takes 1,000, 1,500 for packing them to the vantage place for you. Your take home, as the one who identifies the rosewood as yours, takes around 7,000. So far, the highest one could sell, then we'll be talking about 12,000 or 10,000 per container.
Mostly they pay royalty to the chiefs. So when they load the container, they pay 5 million to the chief. Chief Larabanga chief, when they pay and when they cut, they will give you. When they go to Busuno, they give the Busuno chief. So where they cut the trees, the royalty will take. And besides that, the Yegbeura, the king of the Gonjas, will also take their share.
The assembly has a levy they take. The traditional council or the traditional area has a levy they take. The overlord has a levy he takes. And of course, the police have their levies they take. So these are different levels where monies were channeled through. That made it legitimate, actually, because it's an illegal activity. So you don't fix fees on illegal activities. You place fines on them.
For exactly before, Nana said every region we should have one of the factory. So that time one of my colleagues, he said, this news is good, oh. So we should build one factory in Ghana here.
This factory started almost at the time the ban came. There's no trade in rosewood, so all the rosewood that they think if they are carrying out will be confiscated were brought in here and they were put into this type of pallets for export. In a day, they can have about 5 long trucks containers taking these pallets out. So that was when the factory here was set up, and their purpose was just to process the wood into this.
Some of the village people bring some fresh log coming. You see, I write one of the some, but no fresh logs.
Okay, yes.
If you see that somebody was there,
Yes.
I put there.
Yeah.
They bring the fresh logs,
Of rosewood.
the rosewood. He come to the yard. I said, no, the government don't allow we do like this. But some of the village people, they're crying. They say, boss, I need money for my children go to school. I need money for the children, for my mother go to the hospital. I beg you, help me this time. I help him one, another one coming. I help second, the 10th coming, plenty. Second day, the village people, plenty come to the factory here. So sometimes I don't know how to decide it. Really, I won't help them. They need money for children, need money for wife, need money for his mother, his old father. That time we have the documents, the dry logs, even though we still have some of the dry rosewood here. We're not cutting.
So you don't process them.
No document. No document. Only the papa.
The rosewood business, as it drops, it makes the other species vulnerable. So they got into this and they saw that, okay, these ones are also good. So if they were not getting rosewood, then they go into these ones.
They also use this to disguise the rosewood when they are putting in the containers. Some people would put the rosewood in the container and then cloud it with the other species like Auxilia and co.
So they use senya, they use papao. There was a time they were logging share trees, and here it is a taboo to cut down a share tree. So people stood up a bit around it. And, once in a while they will hide and have some 2, 3.
Actually, because there were no any business or any job given to them, that is why most of them were on it. If the government can provide jobs, I don't think people, because we're all against the logging at that time. But because there's no any business, that is why a lot of people were running into it. So I will appeal to government, if government can create a job so that people can work, I don't think people can go in to cut trees.
So we hope if Ghana, the government can give the factory, we are building the factory here. If you say ban, the ban coming, I beg you, can let the government ban the square logs in the bush. They do the container. For our factory, they should give us some of the
Some access.
concession, less every month. Like the ban coming, your factory should working. But every month, maybe 10 container, 20 container, you give one of the limited. Then we can continue working. Because if we are building the wheat from China come here, put plenty money in the Ghana here. But if building the factory, everything was here, nothing to do. We realize us feeling this country is not good. Maybe next time we don't want to put the money in the country again.
Everything that comes have the good side and the bad side. There were a few guys who were idling, they didn't have anything to do. So they started 1 or 2 things. And now some of them are a bit elevated as far as their standard of living is concerned.
And the Chinese didn't directly finance any other developmental project from the rosewood, but through some other initiatives by some chiefs and some individuals, there were some developments. Yeah.
Every year in December, we used to have twice some kind of rain to keep new grasses. Now the cattle as we have it here, they all move somewhere to the white volta or the black volta closer there to be able to graze. And that is very far. No rains. People who planted late, those days we used to plant twice maize. But this year, people who planted the first one and could not meet the timing for the second one could not harvest because all dried up, because there wasn't rains. The grasses are not there. All the rivers, if you get down there, the rivers are drying up.
Rivers that were perennial have now become annual, and then they dry up. Seasonal, they dry up within the dry season. And they only come back when the rains are back.
Before then, a gallon, that is about 5 liters of honey, was 15 cedis. Now, if you don't have 150, you don't buy it. That means it's not there. We can't even find it. And there's a village here before this one, Telape. All over the places, now in the school buildings, in people's whose houses are sealed, that's where they are looking for their accommodations, because that's where they can inhabit and then live. Because the trees, everything is gone. Currently, as we stand, our environment is as volatile as anything.
When the Rosewood trade started and the business started booming and the youth got involved, the crimes on the highway reduced. The overlord openly said, because of the logging, crimes have reduced, so we should allow the logging to go on. So I can't say that it has rather increased. From evidence from what they have said, it means that it has rather decreased.
The system was not regulated, so there was so much money, but such money was going into individual packets, which could have been at a point put in one purse and then regulated for the use of everybody.
It's a wake-up call for all of us. I think we never envisaged this happening to us, especially in the north, where we think it is very fragile. It is difficult for us to tell why the Chinese had to let us know that we had rosewood that could be beneficial for us.
So there should be a kind of law protecting this particular area. The other way we can do it is just educating our people. Our people need that much sensitization. That kind of greed, even our leaders, politicians, the chiefs, they are all involved. Both MPP and DC, they told us that it's difficult to go to my constituents and tell them they should stop logging. Because if I do that, if they even see me championing the activities to ban rosewood, they will not vote for me. So these are the kind of people we are working with. So from the policy issue until we are able to educate our people to be able to stand firm. When you go to places like Tumu, they couldn't log rosewood. They couldn't log. Because the chief said, no logging of rosewood in my area.